What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk. It is me, Tyson the Trainer. For those of you watching, I do not have a beard anymore. I have shaved for November, and honestly, when you guys are watching this, it's going to be at the start of the year next year. Or when you listen to this, it's going to be towards the end of the year. But man, a smooth face, I do not look like the same person. It is very freaky. But with that being said, we are here to talk about sports, not about my face. And I want to talk to you guys today about training overall. And I've covered this before a little bit about training with fasted exercise in the morning on an empty stomach and doing your low intensity stuff, and then having carbohydrates for your high intensity training. But one thing I also want to make sure we're covering is obviously if you're an athlete and you're listening to this, you probably do have a coach who will have you at a certain program. But if you don't, and you kind of do your own thing with regards to just if you're a cyclist, a swimmer, a runner, even for most sports, you're gonna have a coach for like team sport, like any individual sport, a weightlifter, any of those things. You're not really gonna have a coach all the time. Well, you might not. You might put your own stuff together and things like that. And this is fine at the end of the day if you want to do your own thing, but you also need to be aware of like how you train, okay? Because if your goal is to get better, there are certain principles we have to follow as an especially if you're an endurance athlete, to get the best out of your performance. And one of those things that you have to really think about is how hard, how long, how harder / intense, and how frequently you train. Right? So how long, how intense, and how frequently you train. Because these three components are going to be what adds stress to your body, can possibly hinder or help for performance, and also it just affects just overall how you're going to be as an athlete. And so when I say this, what I mean is like, we think if we don't have a coach, we just train willy-nilly. Again, for me, doing the triathlon, I didn't get a triathlon coach. Yeah, I guess that'd be cool. I didn't get a triathlon coach. I just it was like, oh well, this is the distances I've got to do. This is what I'm going to achieve. I've got to run 5Ks for my sprint. I've got to cycle 10Ks for my cycling. I've got to swim 750 meters. So I just start working up towards that. And the first few weeks, everything was going well in regards to the cycling and the swimming. But then I've hit a plateau, and my performance started to slow down. And I was like, I wonder what's going on here. And I just started realizing I'm applying no principles that I would apply to like I do with weight training. With weight training, it's progressive overload. Each week it's a little bit harder. Then you have that deload week, to super compensate for what's been happening, also help improve recovery, and also just make sure that you take that week off for a bit of a mental break, and then you get back into it. But what I've realized is I haven't been doing that with my training at all, and also the training principle doesn't really follow the same application overall. So you don't swim and then just make it harder and harder and harder each week and then take a week off, because you've got to practice different types of swimming. You don't run harder and harder and harder and then you take a week off. So there is principles that we need to be able to follow when it comes to this. And this is where there's a few books about it by a guy named Matt Fitzgerald, and he talks about what I guess top tier athletes do. And a lot of what top tier athletes do is actually only train in 80% of their, or 80 to 90% of their training is low intensity. Okay. And this is also, again, why I bring back to the point of a heart rate monitor, because when you have a heart rate monitor, you can monitor your training intensity. Because what a lot of us seem to do, including myself being a type A person, I always want to push harder. I always want to get better. I always want to go a little bit harder than last week. And, that can be fine at certain times with weight training, for example, because it'll work. But when it comes to swimming, running, cycling, any endurance sport, it's not the same, because you can't just keep going harder, because you will add wear and tear to your body. You will negatively impact performance, and you can also, have things like injuries, overtraining, and all that stuff. So it's I was doing the wrong thing, and having to learn about the 80-20 principle, basically, or the 90-10 principle, and learning to train lower and slower. And that has actually helped my performance overall, especially with my swimming. Because I was just trying to swim all out, I'm going to just do a K&a-half this week, I'm going to do a K, it's like, okay, that's fine, but it's like, what about my technique? Is it breaking down? Is it getting better? Am I getting faster? Is it less rest time? All these things. And it wasn't. It was just me trying to fucking just basically just ruin myself and tire out myself from swimming. And tiring out myself isn't the goal, or tiring out yourself from endurance sport isn't your goal. It's to perform as an athlete, and that's one thing you've also got to remember. You're not there to get tired. You're there to perform. And so with that being said, overall, like I said, most of the training is done in low intensity sports. And when I say low intensity sports, low intensity sports, in low intensity, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Training, low intensity training for the most part, it means that for 80 to 90% of your training, it will be in a very low heart rate zone. So usually about 78% of your heart rate, 75 to 78% is going to be the place you want to be at. So for me, that's like 140 beats a minute, which is quite low when you think about it. But that is, that's where I've got to sit for the most part. And that means most of the workouts are going to be pretty cruisy. And that's okay. It's okay that they're cruisy. Because again, your goal here, when it's cruisy, longer, slower workouts, you're building up mitochondrial density, okay? So, which is very good because, the more mitochondrial density you have, the better you're going to be able to perform as an athlete, the better your aerobic capacity is going to be, the better you're training yourself also between that, right, like I've talked about, the aerobic the aerobic side of things and the anaerobic side of things. So you've got those two different components you want to work on. But also, there's been studies that have shown that your VO2 max can actually help be increased with more lower intensity cardio and helping with that mitochondrial density. So that's the first most important thing. Secondly, when it comes to slower training, it allows you to recover more. It allows you to make sure you can come again to the next session. Without being so fatigued all the time. Because if you're always trying to redline, if you're always trying to push hard, you're going to have a higher chance of hurting yourself. You're going to have a higher chance of just being exhausted all the time. You're going to have a higher chance of having lower performance because you're always redlining. I used to sit on that assault bike for an hour at 180 beats per minute, which is just redlining. And I'll do that once a week, every week, bang, bang, bang. I never got any better. I never got any faster. I never increased my power because I was doing the exact same thing, And it's not beneficial to me at all for my health, for my VO2 max, for my performance, nothing. And that was just there for cardio. But now when it comes to the swimming, same type of thing. So I have to slow it down a little bit. With my cycling, I have to slow it down a little bit. And so 80% of my work is done in that lower threshold, I guess you would say, that lower heart rate zone. And it just allows you to build up the miles. Miles make mitochondria. And the more mitochondria you make, the better. And so with that also being said, it also saves you for those times when you need to really be able to push hard. And that's where that 80 to 90% of the intensity comes in. And you get to go a little bit harder. You get to really, put you in that intensity zone that you need to be in to perform as hard as you can. And so this is where becoming a good athlete knows when to switch it on and when to turn it off, when to really ramp it up and when to set it back a little bit. And if you, as an athlete, do not follow principles like this, as I wasn't, you will not make progress. So I want to make this video today basically for you guys to say, start learning about the 80-20 principle. If you're a runner, look up 80-20 running. If you're a swimmer, look up 80-20 swimming. If you're a cyclist, look up 80-20 cyclist. If you're an endurance person, look up 80-20, whatever your endurance thing is. Like for me, it's 80-20 triathlon. And just, Matt Fitzgerald, he cites the studies, he explains what's going on, and when you look at the top athletes in the world and they do this 80 to 90% of low intensity training, it just goes to show that why would you not follow them? Why would you not learn from the best? Success leaves clues, and they're leaving clues all the time. And so, applying this principle will make you a better athlete overall, will reduce your chances of injuries, will help improve your VO2 max overall, will help improve your performance overall, will help improve your recovery. Every single fucking aspect is going to be improved if you make sure you do get enough recovery in and lower intensity training in, And again, knowing what 78% of your heart rate zone is, or heart rate is, which if you don't know your heart rate max, I guess you would say it's 220. Take your age. So for me, I'm 26, so 220 take 26 is 194 beats per minute, and then from there I'm going to do 78% of that, which comes to about 140 beats per minute. I think it's like 145 or something, and that's basically going to be where you want to sit for your low intensity stuff, and it's going to feel really cruisy, and you're going to be like, oh, am I even doing something? But you are, and you should be. You should be able to maintain that for a long period of time, and that's how you build up the distance. That's how you build up that cardiovascular health at the end of the day, and that's what's going to make marks and just have you in the best opportunity you can to get the results you want. Right? Because again, we're not here just to fucking burn calories or to get tired. We are here for results, and the way you get results is by learning from the best. So I just wanted to come on here and share that message with you guys, because I think it's quite important that a lot of people, it's something that people overlook at the end of the day, and including myself. And since implementing it, it's been a lot better for myself, just because I'm educated, now, and I should have looked it up earlier as a coach, but the same thing you guys need to apply. Go and do some research. Go and look at actually, how athletes for your sport train. This includes rowing too, anything, any endurance event, and you'll be able to figure out that there is an 80-20 principle that you're going to have to adhere to. All right, so I hope that was helpful. If you guys have any questions, as always, you know where to find me on Instagram at Tyson the Trainer with 2 R's, or I now have a website. It is TysonTheTrainer with 1R.com. So TysonTheTrainer.com for anything else you want to learn. All right, guys, I'll speak to you next time.